Do you know someone who looks to make a difference for their community, actually for the whole world? One kid, one student at a time? Well, I'm going to share a new Black hero who has been doing it for decades. Meet Dr. Ronald Peters. He is a husband, a father, a professor, a giver to many, and is continuing to make an impact on so many young Black students. So I'm here with Dr. Peters, my mentor, my frat brother from Theta Rho Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and we're doing a nice walkthrough of his garage, which you cannot call a garage. It's his museum of history, not just his history, but world history in the past couple of decades. So thank you for giving me this access and the rest of the world this opportunity.
Man, I'm Ron Peters, and this is my garage, and it has a lot of my memories in it. And I'm grateful for Brother Holly to come here and just have some time together where we can kind of talk about things. I really appreciate it. But you know, when you look at Holly as well as myself, one of the things about it, we have the consubstantiality of giving. It's just something in our hearts as men, we want to give to others. And so one of the things that I had to do to sacrifice my life was to go to Haiti. And if you see in the back of this picture for Alpha, that was really the beginning of us politically trying to make sure that the Brothers Keep program was really, really operationalized in the frat. And we had all of the brothers that were from Haiti there, and we were trying to find their families. At the borders, you get extorted, you get guns on you, because it's, you know, in certain countries, it's just wild, some of the things going on with the government. And, you know, it's people dead in those buildings, unfortunately, in the back of it. And this is me in graduate school where, you know, you had people from all over the world. You had, you know, Kazakhstan, China, and I was representing Farmers Boulevard, Queens. Somehow we all work together to make me whole and become dominant intellectually and with research through being around strong people. So if you do get a doctorate or if you do go to school, it's important to go through the fire so you can be enhanced and have more to give. Mm-hmm. So this was at the University of Texas. It was the #1 ranked program in public health. And this is me with my college kids at the time. Some are now, you know, professional basketball players. You have lawyers, doctors, but we're just having a good time. And this is a big deal for me, giving my son the grip once he just went over for the frat a couple of years ago. And our favorite place is Aruba. And the sunsets are amazing. And, you know, when you see God's unimpeded water, it's just unbelievable. When it's just God, it's just, you know there's a God when you see God's unimpeded water and the rhythm and the ebb and flow of water. And to have your sons there during a real sunset is just gorgeous. Nice. And so, you know, if I ever, when I do move forward, I would love to have a picture such as that to represent my life. And I consider myself now the setting sun, S-U-N. Mm-hmm. You know, the setting sun, and my sons are the, you know, are growing and developing. So that picture means a lot. I was the director of the COVID-19 task force. And this is myself getting on CNN with the chairman of Alpha Phi Alpha, which was a big thing for me because it said the fraternity, not just for me, but to see Alpha Phi Alpha, not just that's the Alpha. That's great, but this is Alpha Phi Alpha. And it went to at least 2 billion people across the world because it was CNN International. And they gave us 5 minutes. This is myself with my first line with 1988 Marcus Clark, who I believe was the best leader at the time, you know, of that era, behind the scenes doing what you need to do, Phil Bill, of course, Lance, and then, Dave the Ladies Crave and Wendell Mahan with my line brother in the front that's unfortunately just passed away. And so, yes, never know. This is a man here who changed my life, A. Charles Hastings, and he fought in the World War II. And when people think of civil rights, they always think of Martin Luther King, but the civil rights movement started really, in 1904 when we had the Niagara movement. Okay. And, with W.E.B. Du Bois, and they talked about the things that they wanted to have for Black Americans. And then what happened is many people went to World War I and World War II. And when they came back, they weren't having it. They weren't having it. So that's why they had to start leaning back and making sure they give us some rights, because guys like this who came back, who wanted full rights for citizenship. See, and you had other brothers that was coming back from World War II, and blacks can't swim in the pool, otherwise they're dirty the pool. Nah, man, we gonna jump in the pool and belly flop and start backstroking on them and let all the white people get out of the pool because we're not taking it. Now that's civil rights. Sometimes you think it's we shall overcome, but you have some people serious that were willing to die for what they believed. And when you had people that could work them guns and saw major death, they didn't fear death when they came back. So nonetheless, he changed my life, and we created a program called Brothers Keeper that went international. And this is my mentor over here, both of my mentors, and one is an alpha, Dick Gregory. And I was doing a program in the Virgin Islands for all of the curriculums of their kids in middle school. And wow, Dick Gregory comes and sees my work. I couldn't believe it. And he spent time with me that night, and he just walked up to me with me when we were at the governor's mansion. And that was the first big thing that I ever did. I was like, wow, I'm at the governor's mansion. And this guy just walks up to me who I've read so much about. And he's one of the greatest men to sacrifice his life and teachers of all time for black people in America. And that's Wilbur Hardy, who with our fraternity is so great because he owns buildings, and all his property in Houston. And he allowed me to be a part of his investment club. So now I've been retired for a little while, but he may have 400 units, 500 units, investing in shopping malls and so forth. So it's really helped me out to be around great men that saw something in me that would teach me the game. This is my son going over, and he has asthma, and he never could really exercise. He never really got up or exercised or had the willpower. And so I was just really happy that the frat had such an impact on him for me to, because I can't push him when you're a father, but to a certain level. He's up there probably higher than anybody else. And we used to have our Super Bowl parties with the brothers, and we're getting together to eat. And of course, you have Champezi, Manisi, Lane, and all the other brothers there just having some fun. And this is my wife here when our national president came down to our house. And that was huge. That was a huge day for her to host the national president of Delta Sigma Theta at our home. And I had to get this cake. I wanted to make sure I had a cake. And it was just huge. Of course, we got put in the papers or whatever it is, social media with my son, my second son for the Texans, for the news media, and then from my book, that is a part in my book where in high school, sadly, we used to, Charlie Rock McClain, one of my best friends to this day.
Okay, so let's pick it up on this side now.
Okay, well, this is one of the things I try to do when I go to games is to have good seats. And I may just go to one game a year, but every time we go to a game, something special happens. So this is my son And my two sons actually, and we were doing some kind of dance off, and my son was in it. He became an instant, celebrity at the game in front of 70,000 people at a Monday night game, and it was kind of fun. But sometimes you can have a universal law of attraction, and you can put yourself in situations that you would never think that you would be the one out of 70,000. Or, we went to a game and I got the ticket that was right at the place that Steph Curry and the Warriors would walk out.
Okay.
And then I waved to Curry and I did this to my son. And he had to be some kind, I hate to say the word warlock, but he's on the court, and the court is a place where you're judged, right? It's a court. And sometimes we don't think about these words and the meanings, the etymology of words, but you're judged on a court, and so he is a warlock, he is a warrior, right?
Yes.
So, with that, he took it and it was so fast. He looked at me almost like this. When I told him, I pointed to my son, he was like, and he put the thing right in his hand. And he was on the other side, maybe 20 feet away, with all these other kids with signs and so forth. Hey, Curry, Curry. All he had was one wristband. For this is where John Brown and Harper's Ferry, and it was a very emotional trip for me to take my sons to Harper's Ferry, where John Brown, and many people don't know it, but it was a white preacher during slavery that would treat black men like equals and honor them. He would cook for them. Hello, sir. How you doing, sir? Cook for black people. He would, he sparked the civil rights. He sparked the civil rights movement, but he sparked also the Civil War. Well, because of him, he was the one who really things started popping off. And this is where they had, I don't know if you remember the movie Django.
Yes.
But Django is the story about Dangerfield Newby. And Dangerfield Newby went with John Brown to Harper's Ferry to take over the, I guess it was a place where they had all of the guns and so forth. It was a major place where they had all of their armory, that's it, armory. And so, sadly, it was a black man that told the white folks about what he was going to do, and he was stopped. But what's interesting is with this, Harriet Tubman said the only mistake that she ever did that she wished she could have been a part of was going to Harper's Ferry with the great John Brown.
Okay.
I had the chance to hug the tree in which he was, hung on, man, and to go to the courts with my kids. And with this picture here, again, Dangerfield Newby was shot, sadly enough, but he was looking for his wife, which was the story of Django. And that's why he was with John Brown. Okay. And so, if you ever look up that name, it's meaning behind a lot of these movies. And so when you hear the song in church, His truth is coming forth, that's really the song for John Brown. He also had a constitution, which they let me touch the constitution that he was going to put forth for America. And so, and this is Theta Row. And of course, that's Holly and the pirate hat. And the intensity of our chapter with it's like we didn't have a lot of times our fathers around as a chapter. Many of us were first generation college students. Probably 80% of the chapter. And it was a lot of volatile men that were given these principles of manly deed, scholarship, and love for all mankind. And for, that's the motto, the aims of our fraternity. And by the way, it was a brother at Theta Row because it was just a song. Our song, manly deed, scholarship. It was just a song until Theta Row came along. And so my thing is, it's just important to be one as a man and realize it's not about you, it's about organization. It's about working together, consubstantiality. And that's why I can come here today and talk with, my brother, my hard-minded brother, Holly. I call him Hollyfield because we've been through stuff together. And this is my good friend Frank the Tank Gans, who's a frat brother also with his two sons. And as before, when we go to Aruba, and these are my sons, they're swimming and seeing some things that I never saw before. We're all children of God, but to be a setting sun with your sons is just amazing, and to look at that and your light, so to say, dimming as theirs begin to shine and put light on the world, to be the next generation of light as you enjoy the beautiful sunset. A lot of these are my actual mentees that became, just like us in Beta Row, Texas Southern University, Delta Theta chapter, and these were guys that were coming out of nowhere, didn't know what they were doing, and many of them fatherless, coming from New Orleans, Houston, some serious stuff, and going through everything, and then they become whole in a broken world. You have superintendents here, independent people, insurance agents, doctors, lawyers, all that is in here.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought this was an interesting picture of my dog looking like he's thinking. And beautiful character. He's always into something, running around, and he kind of really is like a real big part of our family now. This is VCU, and it was a big thing for us to go to the Final Four because we were just a mid-tier, or damn near third-tier kind of Division I school as far as with our sports programs. I had my sons, and of course it wasn't too many people when you had the big schools, UConn and Kentucky and all these other big schools they have. And so we were, there and talking to the press, and had my sons there. That was a big deal for me. And this is one of my mentees that's now the state director of Louisiana, and he's what's called an alderman. And an alderman is like a city council. If you're from the East Coast, Rodney Welch, and that's also one of the chancellors at one of my mentees, Dr. Jackson, who is at Southern University, one of the administrators or vice presidents over there. So it's really, really good to see the next generation move forward. And then he won as the first black alderman in Monroe. And if you ever watch anything about the great, I'm trying to think of his name, Bill Russell. Mm-hmm. Bill Russell is from Monroe, Louisiana. This was one of my faculty members and my fellow faculty members when we had our book signing. Ross DeCoste, and he's a big time professor now. He's from Australia, and he was one of my fellow faculty members and friends at the University of Texas. Mm-hmm. And these are some of my kids that are doing really well now at Texas Southern, and one of them was getting married. And I became somewhat of a father. They call me Pops.
Yeah.
And this is when they won the co-national chapter of the year. It's just like, wow. And I know I have some kind of, it's kind of nefarious in a way, but I always root for the underdog. And I love when we can compete and beat some of the people they would think are the good guys. And these kids here are not going to be as competitive and so forth. And over here is my father, and some people don't want to go to the military, but like if it wasn't for the military, my father wouldn't have had that discipline. He was born to a woman that was 14 years old.
Oh, okay.
And she had to fight to keep him. And, he didn't have a father. At the end of the day, growing up, baseball was big. It's big in the Holly family. Mm-hmm. And when you would trade cards and like people were bigger than life, and having the Yankees, and now it seems like forever, but I was about 10 years old at the time, and that's when it was so big, you know, the heroes, and they won the championship. Named my dog after Sparky Lyle, who was a reliever at the time, Sparky, and Bucky Dent, and Reggie Jackson, and Sweet Lou Piniella, and all of these guys, you know, Thurman Munson, and that was huge. And this is the collective of me, and whatever it says on there, it has something to do with faith. Many of the brothers in the chapter, they laugh at me a lot because they call it pep talk, or, you know, I couldn't talk very well at one time, but I kept trying, you know, and I had I was heart-minded. You know, the heart is 5 times stronger. It has neurotransmitters, and it has, I think, 40,000 neurotransmitters. And I think the Bible says, trust your heart and not your understanding. I think it's something like that in the Bible. So being heart-minded is so important, because the heart should control your mind, because the mind is binary, right? Mm-hmm. You never know with the amount of time and energy what you can do. At one time this was big for me, but now it's just a collective of things that, that this happened through faith, you know. Yeah. But we appreciate you coming, Holly, and spending some time with me at my house, man, because it's been a few years, you know, and we have that consubstantiality, that collectiveness that we talked about earlier, that is just like so many things in common. So I hope you'll read Holly's book, and then you can read my book, and then from there you'll see why we're so connected.
So you, Dr. Ronald Peters, are a new Black hero.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.